Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order the May 14th, 2025 EAC monthly meeting. And with that, the minutes were distributed. Are there any edits, changes, anything to the minutes?
I didn't look, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, pending any changes or edits, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Can I have a second? All in favor? Okay, wonderful. Public comment time, seeing that we have nobody from public comments. We will move on. Student report, seeing that we do not have James here with us. We will move on from that. There's Matt. Handsome devil. There he is.
That was the mugshot before.
Yeah. Okay, Matt, we just approved the minutes. No public comments. No James, so we're moving on from that. So we're gonna keep springing forward here, project updates. I will go first, sustainability. I will tell you that again, we are one item away, and that is a community-wide greenhouse gas inventory. We decided not to pay for that and have ICLEI do it, but we have been accepted and will be working with the Penn State PSU summer program to do that. So we're waiting to hear from them, but I have confirmation that we've been accepted. They will begin that, and then we will move forward. So I'm not sure there'll be much to say with sustainability going forward until we start, actually seeing some progress. So there is there's an expectation that we'll have 3 or 4 meetings during the summer with these undergrad students. They'll work with us, they'll pull information, and then we'll move forward. So any other questions on sustainability? Okay. Seeing there is none, we'll move on to deer management. And we obviously this is Ken's thing, but I think the important parts of this that we're keeping it on here for now is that we had a meeting with the township manager, John Schwend. And I can let Ken sort of talk a little bit more about that, but there's going to be some needs related to that after Ken briefs us. And then I'll bring those up, and we'll ask for support and people's cooperation with that. So Ken, if you want to.
Well, basically, we harvested 3 times as many deer with cars as we did with archery this last year. So our deer population, as I showed John, I have the day before we were meeting with him, I had 10 deer bedded down in my backyard. I had a fawn born in my front yard this afternoon. But we have way too many deer, and the ecological devastation is just amazing. And we had talked, and it had gone through council and things to do what's called a call that they've been doing in Fox Chapel. The city is doing currently. Ross is planning on doing this next year. And the paperwork didn't get submitted, so we didn't do that this year. But it's one of those things of, for a couple of years, I fought doing that because it's one of those things of, if something it doesn't work out, if they don't do things exactly as they're supposed to, and a wounded deer ends up in somebody's front yard or something like that, the PR from that can be very bad. And so we've worked through this whole deer program of public awareness and things like that. And one of the things we talked about was doing another public education program. And I did contact Jean Flagel, the whitetail biologist for the Game Commission, and she's willing to, she knows me now, so she's willing to come in and do an in-person presentation. So that's something we can do as part of our speaker series. That probably makes more sense to do like in August or September. As we're approaching deer season. So as of right now, where we are, that planning process had gotten to the point where we had we had selected 9 different spots in McCandless where we were going to be doing the call. All the venison from that would have been taken down to Carnegie where it's then processed and goes to the food banks. So nothing's wasted. And we'd get our deer population under control, then our deer program and all these other things would start to work out. But right now, you can't planting trees and trying to get wildflowers established and all that, just can't do because of the deer. So we need to get that problem under control. And I'm sure car drivers and insurance companies would be very happy with this also.
Okay, so if I could, Ken, so we have some asks, some direct asks. So as everybody knows, I did a very brief, in front of council 2 weeks ago, a brief, and I sent it to everybody just to sort of give our approval of the purchase of the additional 17 acres for Potter Park. And it was just speaking in a very, it was not opinionated. It was just the EAC through our mission statement, support this purchase, blah, 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 for the reasons of sustainability, for the reasons of deer management, for the reasons of trees, for these different reasons and these different tenets that we subscribe to, this additional purchase fit into it perfectly. And in fact, I didn't know this, but it was sort of quoted in here in a way. Our approval did that. So the township manager has asked us to again give a letter of support from the EAC, similar to this Potter Park letter of support, to council of our support of this deer call program. So I think that we are all in favor of that, but I need to see if there's anybody who's not in favor of that.
Say motion to approve.
Yeah, motion to approve the EAC presenting a letter to council.
Mark gave a second.
Okay, good, wonderful. All in favor? Good to know. Okay, great. So then I will draft something, a letter of approval for council on our support of that. Secondly, there is a Ross Township message out there right now, and Mark, it talks a lot about the points of this. And as Ken just mentioned, people don't like guns. People are afraid of guns. People don't want to see a wounded deer, running, with a missed shot or something, or the wrong shot. So they are looking for us to craft a safety brief along with John, for us to craft some type of safety brief. And there are examples out there, and one being, who did you just say?
Fox
Chapel, and the other one being Ross Township. So I'm wondering if you could work with John on a message that we can do some type of community-wide message, and distribution, as per John sees it, of the finer points of this regarding safety and its effectiveness.
Yeah, be happy to.
Just as all 9 of the places they picked were picked like our water catch basins and things like that. So they're away from housing, and shooting would be down so that there's always a hillside behind, that if they miss or the bullet goes through the deer, that it's going into a hillside and all that. So safety is a big part of the consideration when you're picking a site to do that.
Got it.
Good.
I have a quick question. Are there
Yes.
any other deer management programs that ever are successful, like preventing breeding or anything else, or is calling pretty much?
I mean, Mount Lebanon went through, that big song and dance, and it's, people will say, well, why can't you shoot them with birth control and all that? Well, then you're still shooting them and you're not going to get all of them.
Yeah.
And so none of, the only thing that has worked is a cull program.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So John, you good with that?
Yeah, and actually one more thing, we are probably working on a summer edition of the town crier, which would be mailed to all residents and businesses in the town. And I do want to put in some sort of note about this in there, so we can probably all put something together, probably work with Jack too and such, and whoever else is interested with that, probably work with John S. and all that, just to get a nice written message.
And what's your timing on that?
About a month or so.
So from the town crier, you want to put something out there, and that's not going to be the Mark and John More-
Probably not. I mean, this would probably be more of an all-encompassing thing.
Okay,
I'd still like to keep it to a page or less if possible, but we probably should start sooner rather than later, because the next one we put out will be November.
Yeah. I think you should. Look
at that-
Lead paragraph.
That I had emailed everybody a letter that I had given John.
Mhm.
earlier.
Mhm.
Try to use that, that's a basis.
Amount of chloride per month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll probably reach out to everyone on that deer.
It's very, very difficult to get the insurance company and all of that. The only data that we can really get are what we pick up, which does not include 19 and McKnight. It doesn't include the deer that got hit and died, but they ran back into the woods first. The insurance companies can't give, Game Commission can give you by township,
Right.
but then that's including the whitetail hunters in North Park and stuff. So it's just very difficult.
Some kind of strategic assumption test on, if this is true, then this is likely the number of loss, of automotive losses annually, how much in vegetation loss annually. I mean, we have 16 square miles, so, what are they eating? What's it costing residents and property owners? And I mean, there's got to be a way to calculate
I
this
think
as
the
an
3
economic
times-
argument.
Ken said this 2 meetings in a row, like the 3 times as many deer harvested by vehicles as
Right.
opposed to by the actual program. It's a pretty good number too.
That was a really
That's
good
the
stat,
big to
yeah.
work with.
It
Yep.
is, so, but what's the economic,
Impact of that.
Yeah, so what does that mean in dollars? Like, how many vehicles at what?
Insurance companies,
Yeah.
3,000.
right.
The average is 3,000 per accident.
There you go, so, you could calculate that.
Do that math quickly, yeah.
There's also a nice article I found that was written up a few years ago on the Fox Chapel program. It's pretty lengthy that I think, to Bernie's point, just capitalizes on some of these key talking points of like, well, here's how we want to quantify this and make this real to appeal to the wider audience. So I think we could take some keys from that as well.
Good. Any other, you have any concerns at all about that, Mark, or you're okay with that?
No, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Any other questions about that?
I guess we should show a picture of Bambi then, so that.
Oh, okay.
That's what you're worried about, right?
As I say in most of my talks, everybody loves to see deer until they're in front of the hood of our car.
Yeah,
And we all love to see the 2 fawns frolicking in our backyard until we realize mom just ate the garbage.
yeah, oh no, and that they're gonna live there for the next 6 years of their lives. I mean, that's what I deal with every day.
Or starve because there's not enough for them to eat.
That's right.
That too,
Yeah,
it's not humane on
I have a little,
here either.
a little buck and live weight on him, he can't be 80 pounds. I mean, he's just skin and bones and he's starting to try to grow antlers and his back right foot's, he can't put any weight on his back right foot. So I don't know if he's gonna make it or not.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this before, that Township Manager John also wanted to work with the police chief to start to calculate, numbers in township, so.
We have, that is already,
Yeah.
the guy that picks them up
She just-
bills the township. So I
Okay.
mean, when I was doing my report, she just pulls it up. I mean, it's, they have
Okay,
that down
good.
there.
So that might be powerful too, John.
That'd be great.
Yeah, good. All right, any other questions about that effort? Okay, moving on, Joanna Rain Garden,
Yes.
and please talk about your exhibit, your experience with your exhibit at the roadside cleanup.
Oh, sure. A lot of people were very excited. I have a list of different people interested in learning more. Some are willing to do like group activities, like volunteerism for pulling weeds and that kind of thing. So I did have one, some kind of landscaping management type company that was interested in possibly doing a stewardship for at least one section of it. So once I don't have anything quite set up for that yet, just because right now I'm trying to figure out how bad is the situation in all of the beds. So right now everything's coming up. And so I can talk a little bit about, I went there today, actually this morning, just to have an idea of where are we in things, because I know that there's Japanese knotweed. How much Japanese knotweed? The answer is it's extensive. It is the entire length of the park. It is all the way down the creek. It is all through about half of the beds have Japanese knotweed in it. And so if you look back, I actually have pictures of a month ago where it was, and you see little shoots here and there with 10, went there today and the whole thing is filled, everything's covered, and it's probably taller than me.
It's the township generally in years past has used the articulated mower and gotten what they can get at.
Mhm.
The remainder part, you can try using a string trimmer, but I think you'll be better off with, shears for like, and if you do that in what the conservancies and everything do, they cut that down in June when it's expended a lot of energy growing up, cut it down, and then in August, they come back and then they spray it with
Yes.
Roundup. And I did that on if you're going up the sidewalk to the ball fields on the right-hand side, 2 years ago, I did that, and there's no knotweed in that section. I did that.
So I've been in touch with Tim Byan from the Audubon Society, because he is one of the main people around here who deals with Japanese knotweed management. And then I looked at Penn State Extension Office and additional for like, what is it that they recommend for like this extensive, and like what, especially it being a rain garden. And that's been my biggest concern, is this is a rain garden where anything that washes off could end up in the waterways.
Once glyphosate is dry, it's no longer active.
He recommends a very specific product, actually. It's called Aquaneat.
Okay.
So that's one that he said for specifically in a rain garden, so you don't get it washing off, because it should be inactive, but it's one of those things like, especially since it goes into North Park, and especially if it's something that we're doing, like we want the optics of it to be good, because Roundup, there are a lot of people who do not like it. There are some things you worry about as far as pollinators and that kind of thing. You have to worry about drift. You have to worry about it going into the soil. There's a lot more about it that you have to worry about. So I do have
The
some.
reason I did it that way is that's what's on Penn State Ag Extension. And that's what all the conservancies that have islands on the rivers, that's how they've been doing it.
Mhm. And he recommended, doing it that way, but also as it gets a little bit more thinned out over the years, he says it's actually more effective to also do stem injection. So stem injection, you use a nail and you go in, you make a little hole, and then you take basically a large syringe filled with Roundup and you shoot it up into the stem of the plant. And it is more effective than spraying the leaves. But either way, the thing that needs to happen is that in mid-June, and he recommends mid-June, because I was looking at the 1st of June, he said wait till mid-June and then chopping it down. And they recommend on Penn State Extension to chop it down all the way to the ground. So it's closest to the ground as you can get, trying to cut off as much of that energy as possible. So my thought then is there's a lot of it out there, but I want to go over some of the good, the bad, and the ugly of what I saw today. There were some very exciting plants out there. So in the gardens that were taken care of, and there's not as much knotweed, I'm very excited about some of the natives. This one's the most exciting. It's not the best picture of the ones. I was double checking to make sure it was what I thought it was. But this is a plant called Jack in the Pulpit.
Mhm.
This is a native wildflower that looks kind of like a pitcher plant, and it loves wetland locations.
And deer don't eat it that much.
And deer don't eat it that much. And Dawn says she's never seen it in there, because I sent her the picture today, like, oh my gosh, look what we found. Look what we uncovered. And she's never seen it. She didn't know it was in there. So some things are popping up. There were other natives in there that were popping up too. Golden Alexander was there. Some things that were native, they're a little bit more weedy. Like this is just a really cute little fleabane. It's cute. It's a little daisy type thing. The bad, there's a lot of other like invasive, not as bad, but this is cornflower. That's an invasive, but it's kind of pretty. Where's some of my others? There's definitely also garlic mustard.
For sure. Deer don't eat it.
Yeah, deer don't eat it. We can though, it's actually edible by us, but you don't
The
want to because
roots. Yeah.
it also absorbs heavy metals. So that's the bad, but then the ugly is definitely the Japanese falcon. And it is, you could see the ground and there was mulch here
Unbelievable.
a
Yeah.
month ago.
That's shame.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Too much.
When you get in there in mid-June,
Sorry, guys.
it'll be as tall as you are.
Wait, where's the, can't really see, but it is all covered in green, almost as tall as me. Not that that's a huge feat, but it grew a lot. So the question is with that, since we have the native plants coming in, do I want to have an event with some of the volunteers that I have to kind of go through, but I can't have kids because now there's poison ivy in there too. Or do we have them come through and like lawnmower it down, but then we have to worry about, well, that's also going to lawnmower all of the native plants that are also growing. So, or using it, I think it's the right thing to use like a trimmer or something and trim part of it down.
How many people would it take to clean this thing up? And how long?
If we just did the garden, I think it's something that could be done on a morning, and if I could gather 8 to 10 people, it'd be great.
Mhm.
I think it's very doable, and I think I have some people that would be willing.
Okay. And you would have a direct, you would know what to do. You would say, this is the mission. We are
Right.
going to chop down the knotweed. And then maybe when those people aren't there,
Right.
I'm going to spray them with something.
So you spray them later on down the road. So in August or so,
Okay,
once it comes back, that's when you do the spray.
okay, so it would just be taking down a knotweed in June.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
I even thought of the name, calling it hackathon.
Mhm.
But yeah,
That's fine.
Okay, so do you think you'll organize that and
as long as everybody agrees, I did kind of check in with Abby before the meeting, like, hey, this is something I'm thinking about. Do you think it's something like it'd be okay to just use my volunteers? Do you think it'd be something that needed to be advertised? And she was waffling back and forth, like, is it something Public Works could do too? And
I was wondering about that.
that's the other thing. It's like,
Wondering about that.
maybe Public Works can, but I don't know if they know how to identify all the different.
Public
needs.
Works will go through with an articulated mower,
Mhm.
which means a guy sitting in a tractor, he's got a boom
Mm.
that he's reaching out as far as he can and cutting stuff. So it just, whatever is there, it gets cut.
So my opinion is that you don't make this a formal thing. You don't go on in some, civic rec website or anything like that. You just call your volunteer list and say, you email all of them and say, on June 12th, we're gonna do that, and you're gonna email 15 people and 4 are gonna show up and 3 of us will show up and you'll get your work done.
Okay, and that's kind of what I was leaning towards anyways, but I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure you guys were in agreement.
Yeah, I don't know that Dawn ever memorialized, her efforts toward the rain garden. She just sort of went and they happened, so. So I think that's
Sounds
what
like that could be an annual event.
It could be something that's
Hackathon.
annual hackathon. I kind of like it.
If, again, if you do it and you get them the second time, you're gonna reduce it by 90% the second year. And it's it's 2-3 years, it should be gone until it gets reinvested, because it'll come down from up above.
Goodness.
So overall, things are moving forwards and there's cool plants.
Wonderful. Any other questions for Joanne? Okay. Next up is a tree program. So Bernie, wonderful tips last month. Thank you. They were great. And obviously we'll couple this with the event next Thursday, your sign up and lack thereof, or whatever that it is. And then also, how was your exhibit at the cleanup?
Well, that's where we show my,
Yeah.
So I have that covered in the PowerPoint. So I have an update. This is, and again, I'm giving credit to those who have joined the planning committee, which is Ken, Jeff, Joanna, plus, again, I think we had some other, one other woman join the last call. So anyway, so this is just kind of an update as to,
Just real quick beforehand, at Friends of North Park meeting last night, NAAC is dissolving. And we talked about with their not losing their tree sale program. And so the Friends of North Park is probably going to take that over per se,
okay,
but they're more than willing to work with us on that, so that resource base that doesn't go away and people are, we can still use lithotomy for the distribution and all of that. So that's in progress as far as getting that transfer from NEAC to the Friends of North Park and doing it that way so that we can work on that as basically a fundraiser and all of that.
it's a fundraiser for Friends of North Park. Kind of hoping that, when Beth and I talked at the event, Beth Sutton, I thought, she had talked about maybe relating that to what we were doing, but
But it fits.
yeah, so.
And it's still
in process.
come to the next Friends of North Park meeting.
Okay, well, I don't know when they are, but yeah, you can let me know when they are, because you're right, there's a lot of groups we need to connect with. So anyway, if we go to the next slide, and this is just an update, because I feel like it's starting to form, which is, we all know this, the launch now would be tied to the 175th anniversary, driven by this notion of a tree canopy goal. And then to have a monthly focus, I've been working on developing, what's gonna happen each month. And then, our starter activities this year, some of us went to tree tenders in March. Everybody was on the first slide. We'll have our speaker with Tree Pittsburgh, the 22nd, and the series. The tree tender program, here at Town Hall. I think we have enough room for 25 trees. So I really want to help actively recruit to fill those seats. And that's it, recruitment for more of a tree team in 2026. And then, the notion of how do we coordinate with the township staff for the 175th? And yeah, there's been this idea of, maybe joining either the committee, which I don't want to take one of the 10 seats because I feel like that committee is going to do a lot of township stuff, but maybe we can connect to, to the committee once formed. So that's kind of more of my thought on that. So anyway, but that's where, and I still like always saying there's our 16.4 square, and looking at how much green there is already. And yeah, someday I'll get a map of all the smaller parks in there too. But I still look at this and say, that's the geographic focus. So I think the biggest updates, last week I met John at the event, the volunteer event, and it was interesting because he's actually a huge tree fan, where he just came from and is it
Edgeworth, yeah.
Yeah, he said they were a tree city and they had a contract arborist. And he's like, we should be a tree city. And so I had to look that program up to see what that was about. And that's when we had the conversation about tying in our monthly kind of slate of activities for next year, completely dovetailed into what they're doing. But I would say, he was pretty excited about trees. which is great. There's no convincing, you know, he's an advocate. And so he said the Tree City was something he had hoped to do. So I feel like we can support him likewise and look at that program. And then Clint Nowak is somebody I know from Duquesne Light. And mid-April, the storm hit the 29th, so this is like 2 weeks before the storm. I had called him and said, hey, the meeting we had where that, you know, that woman who had attended, we had this conversation about how the last time Duquesne Light came through the neighborhood, they ripped out a lot of trees that, you know, weren't necessarily needed to be ripped out. So I kind of said to Clint, you know, is there a way that we could look at doing a different kind of vegetation plan? And he said, we're upset. We give, you know, folks contracts and then they go through the neighborhoods and because they're going to get paid by what they take down. He said they get a little too enthusiastic. He said, so we've been talking about how we kind of want to change it too. And he said, we'd be happy to work with you on prototyping a whole new approach for how Duquesne Light could dovetail with their vegetation team with McCandless to support what we're doing on the recanopy. So, and then Jennifer Engel over at LaRoche, she was recruited out of Pitt. She had developed Pitt's lifelong learning program. And I met her because I was one of the first 20 people to sign up for this program a few years back. And she now has over 600 people who are over 50 years old in the program. I have more notes about this later. This is just a high level discussion.
Is this the same program that would put people in it like because I do LL being part-time, they'd be on the kayaks and everything, and they offer all of that, right?
So they have a program called Adventures in Lifelong Learning. So no, you get to use the LaRoche campus for all kind of activities.
Okay.
You can audit classes. You can attend any course that they offer. They're allowed to do one per semester. So I know I had been doing that. And then,
Okay.
so it's more of an activities group, but the fact that they have 600 people who all, you know, she said many of them, most of them are retirees. And so she really thinks that's a good starting point in terms of recruiting for the tree program out of that group and co-develop programs. And we talked about, you know, again, I'm looking at the calendar like Duquesne Light. Clint and I talked about more than a couple of activities throughout the year that they could do education, residential programs, like kind of residential education programs on where to plant, where not to plant, that kind of stuff. But like then Jennifer, so Ken, this is talked about like a tree sale being hosted on their grounds. And anyway, there's more. And then the recruitment from the roadside cleanup, you know, I'll kind of detail out in the next slides what that looked like. But it was amazing because I don't know how long we were there, like 40 minutes, a half hour. Maybe it was longer, but I felt like I recruited a dozen people. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, and I think it's because those were people who are already willing volunteers and, you know, they were looking for places to connect. And then, of course, we have had our 2 planning sessions on the subcommittee. And I do hope to in June, July, and August to do kind of in person, figure out where to hold them. Because I do want to, you know, recruit, some of the people have said they really want to get more involved, figure out how to get them involved over the summer. So, next slide. So so I looked up what the Tree City program's about. It's the Arbor Day Foundation who runs it. And their standards that they have, if you get people, policy, investment, and celebration, and, you know, so on their website, you click each of those links and it kind of outlines what's involved in doing that. And yeah, I mean, they want you to have, then there's if you look, it says, is your city ready? I click that. I looked at, it's kind of a survey, so I kind of see that could be one of the goals of 26 is becoming a tree city.
Mhm.
Because I don't think, based on what I saw today, that would qualify. But I think this is something we could work with John on as a targeted way to, to kind of say what a tree city is. And yeah, it is about developing, they say these 4 standards that they've established. And some of it is, yeah, the municipality has budget funding for trees, and maybe there's an arborist, and there's a way to maintain your trees, and you might have community standards for trees. So, but again, because he, is our new manager, there he is.
And
I'm like, let's.
an
do it.
advocate,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's, Avonworth has a shade tree commission,
yeah,
and that's one of the ones I reviewed when we were looking at that, and
Yep.
we didn't think that was appropriate for McCandless, so, but it's, getting the town involved with and encouraging landowners to take care of their properties is a big thing.
yeah. Well, and I do think, some of it is some development standards, which again, I have not wanted to go there, but we can dip our toe into this program and see how far, we can take the municipality, because that's really who it's for, is the municipality, to say we're a tree city. So, and then I just put something here about the Duquesne Light conversation on the left was his last email. And actually, we've had a bunch of emails since the trees came down, but this is just kind of the idea of every year they talk about their annual vegetation management program. But, so what he said is, hey, yeah, we're interested in working with you. We've had a bunch of emails since about how the vegetation management team is a little busy. He said they're gonna be really busy through this week, but next step, because we were getting one set up for me to start with their government affairs people, who some of them I know. I don't know if you know any of those folks there, but like Lindsay Baxter and Paul Svoboda. Yeah, so they're people I knew actually from this group. They're now with Duquesne Lights government affairs folks. So I don't know who they're gonna kind of throw out to me.
A quick question. Does Duquesne Light cover all of McCandless? Because my power isn't supplied by them. It's.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ohio will Penn, it's a. It
Well,
is.
well,
This is Penn Power, this building is Penn Power.
Yeah, there's a
My area
mixture of
as well.
Duquesne
yeah,
Light
I'm
and
definitely
Penn.
Duquesne Lights.
We'll
So
work
it never
together.
dawned on me.
But
Yeah.
I'll practice with both.
But the line clearing guys are, they're just tired and they just go in and whack and it's like I have a native chestnut tree at my one neighbor's house, and I talk to them every time they're pruning, not to butcher it, and they do. But
Yeah, but that's the kind of thing that, talk to them about, is how could we stop this? Like, if we're trying to do a recanoping effort and every time we turn around, their teams are coming,
Mhm.
just hacking things, then we're working against each other. Likewise, if everybody
Yeah.
starts planting under lines and
that's
against
what-
lines,
partly too, that's why we have the planting guide,
yeah,
so that they don't do like they did over
right.
by LA Fitness and plant red oaks underneath the power lines.
Yeah, I know. And I have a neighbor who put 3 red buds, and I know they can be small, but right under power lines. I'd say within 2 years, they're gonna be touching it. And I don't understand. They're beautiful trees, but they are gonna hit the lines. So
They shouldn't get more than 25 feet tall.
I know, but the lines are, I mean, I keep looking at it every year because he just put them in 2 years ago. And I'm like, why? You could have just brought them back about, 5 feet. You would have been better. Anyway, but so, yeah, so that's kind of steps to take with them. And here's LaRoche. So, again, I've talked with Jennifer for quite a while. So LaRoche, when they did the campus, they did a tree catalog. And I think she said it was Eichenlaub. It was one of the big landscape companies who put their trees in. They already have a tree catalog, what's where. They keep it up when something dies, when it goes down. So they also have an undergrad program that every year there's kind of a spring and fall planting that happens. So she sees dovetailing that in. So that stormwater big thing that she has, she's like, if you guys could help us make that look better, I would love you. So again, I think there's an opportunity there. She did say the sisters made that eco-village commitment, because they believe in eco-justice and that's a big part of, I guess, what underlies La Roche's message and the way they work. So again, so she's game to do host speaker series at their location, or do any kind of promotion to all of their communities for the events that we do. And then she also said, yeah, and I told John this, they're not as engaged with McCandless Township as should like to be. So this could be a good entry point to start with the lifelong learning folks and with those 600 people. And again, we could develop our own, we couldn't call it tree tenders program, but some kind of rolling education program as McCandless tree something. And she said they'd be willing to like offer, ongoing courses with all their volunteers, the students that could then participate with us. So I kind of see them as a good source for volunteers and yeah, you could recruit rain garden people out of there. So here's the starter list from the roadside cleanup, which is why, when you were saying, should we cancel? I just tried to condense this list. But these are the people I spoke with, other than the last two, I think are ones that Joanne had. But everybody
Really
else.
loves trees.
What?
Dawnhart really loves trees.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Well then, it's so funny because, he was telling me how many he planted.
And
he
you
had-
got like apples,
Yeah.
plums, figs, like everything.
Yeah, and and again, how insane it was in that room, and I'm just talking to each of these that quickly, so that point of it was very effective because everybody really wanted to kind of get involved, and people were saying what they did or didn't want to do. So all the people from the Eco Village, I think I only signed up one, maybe two, but they said that they all wanted to come to the speaker series. So
Oh, good.
yeah, that's what I mean. And there's a bunch of people on this list. So I do have their emails. I contracted it so you could see the
Yeah, and
names.
you sent them emails and reminded them and please show up. Don't need to sign up, just show up. But let's not fight the system. Let's just put bodies in chairs.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of, and yeah, this is like more of what I wanted to do, which is these speaker events are more like, hey, come, there's no point of going outside, bring your chair, like come hang out.
Right.
It wasn't meant to be, what's your birth date?
Mhm. Yeah.
And again, I still can't sign up on that app. So, yeah, I tried last meeting, and so did Mark, and we couldn't get on. So anyway, so I don't know how many people attempted and didn't make it. But yeah, I think these folks, I don't know that they'll all be able to come, but you see Beth Dutton's on there. And that's when she said, yeah, we're sunsetting the organization. She's interested in getting more involved and in what we're doing here too.
And she's on Hampton EAC. She's on Friends of North Park, and she's also been involved with NEAP for
Right, a million.
long time. I'll send you her email and you two talk about the tree program.
I have it on here. I have everybody's email. I just condensed it so you can see their notes, but yeah, and you're right, she's part of like who I need to reach out to on here. And yeah, Trish said this woman, Cindy Tyler, who is a landscape architect, and I forget the name of her firm, but it's local. But she said she's doing some graduate program and needs to do certain things for it. And this woman had told Trish she'd be willing to get involved with us. So anyway, but yeah, great event to recruit volunteers. So to me, this is, what's upcoming then is recruiting volunteers, continue to do the subcommittee, continue to reach out to other organizations in the area to gather everybody. I do need, the tree tracker technology for, if we're gonna count 50,000 trees, then, what's the tech to drop the pin? I don't know where to go in terms of.
Forestry. The foresters, when they're looking at land to log, they have tablet functions that they go through so that they can categorize trees by size, species, and all of that. So that's probably already, that wheel's up probably already pretty well created.
So how do we get access to be able to drop a pin in our 16 square? That's what I want to be able to do is people to pull in on a GPS map, drop a pin in my yard, right? I'm gonna put 3 in this week. So I'm gonna drop my 3 pins and be able to say, here's what I just put in my yard. And then they go on the counter of 3 trees toward the 50. So there's a active counter. It's almost like the old thermometer where you show, how you're doing.
So is there somebody at Penn State Extension that would, bring us up to speed on that technology that we can?
Talk to the forester that did some work for me, because
Yeah.
he has that.
There's also like ArcGIS is a good program that's used for a lot of mapping and documenting and tracking. I've used that in prior jobs just to document where things are and
Town does use it too.
So, but I guess what I'm looking for is, can I get somebody to run point to help find and pull that together so that when this thing's ready to launch, we have that piece ready to go? Someone who isn't me.
And I'm not good on all that technical stuff, so.
We could probably talk to the engineers since they're sort of the GIS guru. We could get another layer in the town's map and somehow maybe make that public for submission. I'm not entirely sure, but something like
That's
that.
a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, because with that tool, you can then export it into spreadsheets and everything. It's really good for data.
Okay. All right, good. Because I know, John, there was a time when you were all saying, hey, let us know if you planted something. I don't know when that was, but I know it's.
That ended 2023, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I think this one kind of wanted to be interactive with the public so they could just do their own pin drops and identify who they are and where they put them.
Depending what permissions you have, you can even add pictures of the trees you're planting with that, which is really fun.
Yeah, having all kind of visuals. I mean, I want it to look like something fun to play with. Anyway, I've taken way too much time, but yeah.
Not at all.
So what John and I talked about is, again, whether it's with the 175 committee or just with the staff, like how do we dovetail what we're doing here, more integrated now that we know we have a tree advocate.
And the other, this is the old trees.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to get around, if you all have a copy of that, if we can start checking on that again, that's for the 175, if we can find some of the old trees.
It's in my monthly calendar. Didn't you attend one of the meetings where I had a projected calendar where I know, Jeff, you said that looks ambitious?
Yeah.
So my point is, thought I had it, oh yeah, determine initiatives to publish by September of 2025. So these next 3 months, I want to land like when we're doing that as part of the 175 and trees and, what month will we do that? And yeah, I'm trying to scatter them out and have different groups do them, so.
And Nick, somebody pulled me aside, the roadside cleanup, I've talked to so many people, somebody pulled me aside and said, we feel that there are 5 other trees that are at least 200 years old or something in the community. Do you know this?
There probably are a few, and I'm not a scientist, but there are 2 trees on the land that we just bought that are colossal,
Yeah,
that I bet are of that age.
okay. Somebody said there's more than just this.
Yeah, I'm-
That's the point, so.
There probably are.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's, so, but you and was it Mark, who were running point on kind of finding out where they are and visiting them, or?
Mark just was kind enough to get it distributed to all of you.
Oh, okay. So is somebody gonna go visit them? I mean, is that?
That's why I was bringing that up
Yeah,
is we need to start to do that.
yeah.
Scavenger hunt.
Well,
Yeah.
so how do you want to approach that? Because you're right, I think it's really
I
done.
mean, I'll go with you on that one, Ken. Like, if you wanna go search them together and identifying them, and
So let's just pick we're both retired, so let's
that's
just
what I'm
pick
saying. You hire the right guys.
we can just.
Wish I could join.
There's really not that many of them on there.
Right.
So
Okay, so-
Jeff and I will
We'll
run
take
that
that
down.
over.
Good.
Make
good.
sure you guys check out the new land that we just bought, because there's a sycamore and an oak on that property.
Yeah, I mean, we don't wanna
Yeah,
get, we don't wanna get hit with a assault gun or anything like that, but we'll,
You won't, but yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Jack wants.
No one,
Yeah, Jack will be involved too.
the people who own that house haven't lived there in years, so
Did you ever go to somebody's property when you were young and they shoot us?
If they
No,
just
when-
wanted it.
Yeah, well, we didn't buy it. We don't close until October, so.
September.
Oh, really?
You're laughing about.
That I get it.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I used to fish Potter's
No
Pond when I
one's-
was a kid. And if we went down through the one guy's property, he
Yeah.
actually shot at us. with-
Yes,
with-
I know this activity.
Any questions or comments?
kid.
And you guys turned out just fine.
Yeah.
So.
So Bernie, again, not to turn to more mundane things, but, so you feel like we'll have enough people based on signups and unofficial signups, and I think I have 3 people coming. If everybody could, again, search their own calendar, think about it if they have time, if they can recruit somebody.
For Thursday.
Yeah, for Thursday, I think we need people there. And you'll provide me with some type of kickoff, and there'll be an agenda and,
I actually have the agenda. Let me email that over to you
okay,
again. So
good. I mean, that's all fine because, Joe knows what he's doing. It's just,
Yeah.
it's not something we have to really prepare for, but just a day or two. in
Yeah, but I
advance.
have an agenda of, again, with some time and again, Joe's 1 hour, from start to finish.
Yeah,
So we don't want to take much more.
right.
And at least not in the front end, like we want to hopefully get
I'll
it
just
on the backside.
Pass through it, absolutely.
Recruit people and.
Absolutely. Yep, I know that is the goal of that. Okay. Wonderful. Any other questions for Bernie? Okay, so let's move on then. Keep going. The roadside cleanup recap. Seems like it was a long time ago, but this is our first meeting since then. So I'll just give some facts. So we did have 100+ participants. I would say that we probably had on that day exactly 100, maybe 99, maybe 101, but we had about 100, and then we had another 30 because I was there. I saw them. Troop 279 had another 30. So we had as they mentioned, we had over 100 participants, maybe 130. All EAC members, township staff, all council members, PA Rep Venkat, US Representative Deluzio. It was a wonderful opportunity. There were great pictures. It was on Venkat's website. We got a lot of good publicity and a lot of good feedback and a lot of good, positive responses from council and the community.
You have full buy-in from us now, I think.
Yeah, I think it was such an event that I think everybody sort of sees the same vision. That is an annual community event. That and again, it's the largest volunteer event that we do. It's the 4th largest community event. We had 130 people. I think everybody sees that vision now that this is something that we want to do and not on an just sort of a one-off basis and everything. It's a big community event. And since then, I've heard from Brad, who is the manager of the DPW. He saw, because I said, Brad, the trucks can't be there next time. We're going to be bigger next time. We have to move the trucks. We have to get more tables. We have to be bigger. We have to allow for more. He's like, yep, let's meet beforehand. Let's make the room you wanted to make it. We're all in. And then I hear from Lieutenant, who I can't say his last name, Chernova, blah, blah, blah.
I have a hard time.
Yeah.
Steboranic,
So
that's like a thing,
he's
yeah.
like, hey, Jeff, this was great. And I said, why don't we next time make teams that, and most of this is, you sort of are the logistics person. So if you're okay with it, if a police officer is going to be on McKnight 1A and these 5 people are going to be there, they go out together. Hi, this is officer, something, we all go together. They go as a team. So nobody's like, where are you? Where are you? Where am I supposed to be?
We talked about that as a lessons learned, that we want everybody who's going to certain routes to be clustered before they even leave. That way they are all going off together, whether they are a police route or not.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So the police specifically asked for, we like this so much that we want to be part of it in a way that we will go out as a team and we will all work together. So everybody bought in.
Yeah.
Everybody bought in. And then I'll just go into this real quick. Because we put people out there that we thought there were some places that were a little bit dicey. One of the fathers, a volunteer fire department captain, came back and said, we want to recruit volunteer firemen and vehicles with lights on next year to, and they called Joe Wall for this, to help you with the safety part of it.
Yeah.
So we're like, we're all in. So we'll
Great.
go after that as well.
Yep.
So Troop 279, it picked up Potter Park, but Troop 171 was there prior. So Troop 279 would like to do Vestal next year instead and let 171 do their job. So we actually had another troop in there that we didn't really even account for or throw into our numbers or anything like that. We probably had about 210 to 215 bags collected. And I think that's my larger picture. So Melissa, some of your takeaways.
So like John was saying, we had really great turnout. Out of all of those people, we had about 20 students, so pretty good on their end. From the people that I talked to who were students, they really loved the event and they're hoping to recruit additional classmates moving forward. They also had some great ideas about getting better exposure at the school, so more people are aware of the event as a whole. We collected around 200 bags total on the event day. That doesn't include the troop bag, the troop bags from the other days. We also had, not everybody filled out the form, but at least 29 participants were repeats, not including any of us. So there were quite a few who came back and even brought friends and family. We did compile a list of lessons learned and potential changes that we want to see. A few of us met afterwards, but if any of you have feedback or thoughts, happy to add that to the list. We can do that later to be respectful of time today, but it was pretty exciting and we're looking to expand in the future and keep this going.
My biggest question is how many grabbers got returned? Did that system?
As far as I know, all but maybe one or two got
That's
returned.
awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's one, I think Dawn Hart has one.
Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna beat them up.
Yeah, which is
I'm gonna
fine.
beat them up.
And I think there was one other person there might have been one. I mean, literally one that didn't get returned. And bringing them back,
That's great.
having them come back to DPW, which I thought, oh, no one's gonna want to do that. They all came back. They all had more food. They all had something to say. It was way better for them to come back. I mean, you can't have them all come back at the same time and have some type of gathering where you're gonna have hot dogs and all that kind of stuff. But having them come back and sort of, coming back with, their feedback, their immediate feedback was really helpful. And everybody brought the grabbers back. It was amazing.
It's great.
Yeah.
They were all signed out. You could have gone, you can go get them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, there's a lot of things and, I think there's a lot more detail to the lessons learned, that Melissa compiled that will really help us next year. So I think we'll, and what we want to do ultimately is we want to, as much as we love Judy, we want to eventually relieve her of the responsibility, but she does have the gizmo that makes the maps.
The map process.
So the maps are, that's a tough
Yeah.
one to pass up.
And the maps that she did were pretty helpful.
Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
Well, does Judy want to be relieved?
She wants to take a step back, but she's happy to help in small capacity.
Yeah,
So printing the map.
So maps, yeah.
Printing
Yeah.
the map.
yeah.
What did
Um,
you use to print the maps? Like, do we know what
Yeah,
program it is?
It's a program she has through her job.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what she does is traffic engineer stuff, so.
Because if I were to take over the mapping, I would use something that's publicly available, not some proprietary software. And it would be nice to migrate to something that we all do have access to. But once we have routes adjusted for the future, we hopefully won't have to be changing them up as often. This year, there were quite a few changes.
Mhm. Yep. But and then again, by the next day, I gave Nick, because council meeting was on that
It
Monday,
was following up.
with a summary. And then he read it in front of council. And again, the success is measured by safety, I think, in this case. And, from that standpoint, we had everybody showed up. Everybody was safe. And we didn't get really any negative feedback. We're gonna to get better at it.
All of my members of council had nothing but wonderful things to say, and the ones who've been here for a lot longer than I have also, that it's come a really long way, and that when this first began, the council was not sold on it, and I think it's been sold. So
It's a great
Kudos to
community get together.
all of you guys for
Yep.
making it what it is now.
Yep.
Yeah, I threw something in our little Graybrook Facebook page and I saw one of my neighbors who I never see at anything. He was there that morning and I was like, whoa. So
Yeah.
a younger guy, young family, so he wasn't there with any of his family, but he showed up and I thought that was pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like I feel like you're getting people that aren't normally showing up at volunteer activities, so.
It's the rare person who likes to pick up a piece of garbage, but I mean, I think people like to be involved in something. And if we can make it, experience like we did, then we're selling them on something positive and something generational. Going back, Bernie, is that I am going to compose, because I reached out to next door with this. And again, there was 3,000 people looked at it.
Yeah,
In my next door. So I'm gonna compile something for next door for the tree for tomorrow, and I'll send it out to everybody. And if anybody has access to next door, use the same message and send it out, because I'm Babcock, Ingemar, something like that. You may be Graybrook, you may be something. So I'll send it out tomorrow. And if anybody can reach out through next door, I think it really reaches people.
yeah, I agree. I think, that being 1 week from the date,
Mhm.
that's exactly right. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been waiting for the week in advance to start promo.
Okay, yeah, let's get some bodies here.
Does it require you to register to sign up? I just looked at a
Yeah,
link.
it is requiring you to register.
Is that?
Yeah, it's tough.
Okay.
And we fought Abby on this, and I mean, no, people sign up for pickleball ball all the time, but for some reason, I was not able to sign up for this. She had to sign me up.
Yeah,
So then we sent out messages through social media saying, sign up through this Civic Rec or through the email. Did you get anybody responding to the email?
No one responded to the email.
Or just come?
Yeah, essentially just comment. I mean,
Just
like,
come.
for some reason, this got a lot of traction on, surprisingly, LinkedIn. I don't know if it's like, yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's led to any signups, because I checked this evening, it looked like only 8 people signed up officially
Yeah,
through that,
right. Okay.
through
through
the,
Civic Rec.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. I just asked Abby yesterday.
I mean, in the 80s, I used to have a public event management company, called the Event Works, and we never would have canceled anything. I mean, you just don't. Like, I think it's a horrible practice if you look.
Absolutely.
There's only 3 people we're gonna cancel, like, no, because you don't know how many
Yeah.
people were really gonna come, so
Right.
I mean, I, when that was floating, like.
Well, I need to float it anyways because it pushes the button a little bit. That's what I'm saying. I know you're not gonna cancel, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
you have to start thinking about it. Is there a number?
No,
Okay, all right.
I think that's what I'm trying to say to you, there is never a number.
Okay,
Like, when
right.
you go do this stuff, you say what you're gonna do and you do it. And, if 2 people show up, like your
Yeah.
rain garden,
Mhm.
if it's 2 or 10, you go do it,
Yeah, no, for the sustainability that we had last year, it was not a big turnout, but it was still an excellent event. It really was. Like, we had 17 people there or something like that. That's about it. But it was good, to your point.
I can push it through my community association as well.
Yeah, so we should push any way that we can for this to get that going.
Do you have, like, if it rains that day, is there?
Well, we're supposed
Cover
to
there?
go inside to council chambers, is the rain location, but we would, I don't know that we're saying that, right, John?
No one said that.
Nobody said that?
I haven't heard that one for at least, you're talking about for next week?
Yeah.
Okay, I've not heard of that one, but
Oh,
we can
well, I had asked,
make sure the room's available for sure.
yeah, well, I asked somebody and somebody said, yeah, that would work. I'll go back in my emails.
Yeah, it's not gonna be me. I didn't say that. But anyways, we should make sure that it works. The other thing too, Bernie, are we gonna plant a tree?
I can ask Joe, I should touch base with them.
And do we know where we are gonna plant a tree then?
Again, let me talk to Joe,
Yeah,
about what they're bringing. Yeah.
okay, so I think that's important. If Joe says he wants to plant a tree, then we need to get with John right away and find out where we could plant a tree.
Yeah, I don't, so this is not the tree tenders, this is just an art talk about.
Okay, okay, so he might not be doing that.
No, I mean, we talked about him doing that, but he's gonna do it at tree tenders training in October. But yeah,
We'll have
I
that.
kept trying to talk to them about doing all kinds of things.
Mhm.
If we wanted to hand trees out, I mean,
Right,
they just were shutting me down on all those fronts.
okay, okay, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but I will touch base with him this week and find out, I think he and, Maeve, you know, I don't know, I have a different person there's 4 people I deal with there, and that's why they've confused me about who's on first.
Okay. In my follow-up email to everybody who participated in the roadside cleanup, we mentioned the tree presentation on the 22nd. And, you know, so we're getting out there. Well, let's just keep pushing on this and see how we can do. Okay, any other questions on the roadside cleanup summary?
Quick comment. I can't say for certain that these things are related, but the Girls on the Run group at McKnight Elementary School chose to do a litter cleanup around McKnight today as their service thing. So I'd like to think that we inspired them to do that.
That's great.
Jeff will take credit.
Well, what's so funny is that there were three girls assigned to Blazer Drive. And I had to do Blazer Drive the next day.
Mhm.
They didn't pick up anything. They were over there horsing around, looking at their TikTok and all that kind of stuff. So that's the other side of it. Sorry, Matt.
Elementary kids. These aren't the high school kids that we had at the event.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay, so community outreach. Speaker series, we talked about Tree Pittsburgh. So that is the first one. The next one, Ken mentioned the Whitetail Dare, and I think the question was, and you said August and September.
It makes the most sense because you're
Yeah,
approaching the archery season at that point.
yeah. And this is one that's gonna just sell itself. I mean, this is not one that we're gonna have to pull people out of their easy chairs.
Well, I'm gonna have to rely on all of you to get word out about it because I'm kind of deficient in that aspect of stuff, but I'll look at dates and see, you know, because that's, you know, where are we going to do that? You know, so I need a little bit of help on the organizational end of things on where it's going to be, picking a date, and then I can get hold of Janine and make sure that's good for her.
Okay, so we'll figure out, so we know when, so where is next and how to advertise. Okay,
If we do that through the library and so forth.
right. Yep. Okay, good. Well, we have some time on that, so we'll come back to that. We'll put that on the agenda for next meeting too.
I'll talk to Janine and see what works in that time frame for her.
Okay, good. Wonderful.
We'll let her pick the date.
Okay,
She has to come down from State College, so.
yeah, so based on her schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, good. The other one I have on here is Birdtown, Pennsylvania membership. I'm not gonna get into that. I sent everybody some breakdown on it. Joe Wall suggested that we do that. There are local communities that are also involved. Pine being one of them, a neighboring community. There's not a lot of other ones around here. But I looked at this as an opportunity to, like other things, promote a healthy environment, tree USA city, things like that. And then also maybe, Matt, I was thinking that this would be something that maybe a student could be more involved in. So I'm not going to go into the details of this because I don't think it's necessary for this meeting. I'd like to table it for next meeting. But this is just something I'm sort of poking around with, and I want to have a more robust conversation with at future meetings.
Talk with Latotomy because they're very into the birds over there too.
Okay. Okay, good. From, you okay, you guys okay if I table that till next time?
Yep.
Other things being a little bit more important?
I don't know, migration's a big deal this week, right?
Well, that falls into, one of the other things I wanted to mention, John, I'm getting a birdcast update almost every day because it is. Now we're starting to, it's not as black as it was, it's starting to be a little bit more yellow and it was heavier at the end of April. But how do you, do I just keep sending to you? What's your thoughts on that?
So I don't want to turn the town's social media into all birds all the time.
Yeah,
Just like I'm always concerned it's gonna turn into all lost dogs all the time.
yeah,
If there's a lot coming, we can probably do like almost like a weekly thing and say, hey, this week bird cat, they're suggesting, keep your lights off at night to help with birds.
mm-hmm,
So if it's saying there's gonna be several days in a row, we can do, okay, today, and through probably like whatever day it's expected to end, or at least through this week, saying,
When
keep your
that,
lights off.
when that dark cloud starts approaching,
right.
that,
That's better.
Yeah.
That's better. Okay.
Is there a way to show the map so that everybody can see where they are and,
I think there may be a link to that, but I'm not entirely sure.
yeah.
Because I know in the past, we've done this a couple different ways.
Yeah.
But I don't quite recall if the link has like a live map or a rough,
Ellen anyway, isn't this her thing? Like, wasn't she?
Well, I assured her that this is something that
We take on.
yeah, so she doesn't come every meeting because I wanted to save her special time at home.
Yeah,
So she didn't have to attend every meeting, that we would make this, part of our agenda.
yeah.
So, which we are.
But I think it's, always same time every year, right? We talked about that.
Yes, yes.
Now, how do we just kind of, to your point, it's not year round, it's
Yeah.
what, for about a month? I don't know.
It sort of is, and so I think that's a good idea, John. I think we can manage this in a larger block, in a more, in a message that says for the next week, it's going to be heavy, please do this, as opposed to be saying, today's another day, I got another one today.
Yeah, and what we can do is have a link to Birdcast or something like that. So someone who's really
Yes.
interested can follow through and maybe they can sign up for updates from them.
Okay. Okay, good. Good suggestion. Any other questions on that? Okay. Moving on, open initiatives. Invasive species education expansion.
Mhm.
Joanne, I'm gonna give the table over to you on this one. You're thinking, you've got some different thoughts on invasive species.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and kind of what this is like thinking about how to spin off the rain garden, so it's not, okay, so we have the rain garden, this is what I'm working on, and then I'm all rain garden all the time, and then, oh, let's build more rain gardens, it's like, that's not really what I want to do, / do I think is feasible, because the rain garden is a management issue. And there's a lot more that can come from it that builds more on the educational piece. It builds more on even just the people who live here. How can they do things in their property? How can they be aware? And how can we help them build more ecologically friendly yards?
and just take a little bit different tack, is we're going to be trying to get stewards for, trail management in our parks and things.
Mhm,
And so this coalesces with that very nicely.
right.
Okay, so the,
And when I went, so I got to sit with Jeff at that town council meeting, and they had the speaker come from the survey for the parks. And one of the things she brought up, she had just like a little bit, a snippet, and she's like, it's not complete, it's not everything, but it's like, okay, well, let's look at Wall Park. Number one bullet point of like, what are people talking about with Wall Park? Invasive species.
Mhm.
no, it's all it's there.
Exactly. And if you go anywhere, that's all that's there.
Because of the deer.
But it's like,
It's all connected.
it's all connected, because the native species that are there then get choked out by the invasive species taking over, kind of like the Japanese knotweed up here. So anything that is there that the deer don't eat, then it's being taken over by the invasive species, so you have to manage both. So, and people need that, and I think it's something that's needed on municipal grounds. And I think it's something that, you know, if it's something working on like public works documents for here's how to identify different invasive species and here's what best practices are for managing it. And it can also be promoting different things for homeowners, for things to put in their yard. Don't put, you know, here's the things that are invasive, please don't plant these instead, that kind of thing. Promoting different programs that promote native plants. So whether it's Penn State Gardeners, different kinds of yards, or if it's even like a monarch way station, something like that is promoting native plants within the community. And I've just had a lot of different ideas, and it all surrounds like promote the natives, but also work on the invasive species. How can we remove that and work on trying to limit how much it's spreading throughout our community? Because the problem is if we just let it sit there and continue to spread because, well, if we plant anything else there, deer will eat it. Well, it's just, the problem's only getting worse. So it needs to be managed as well. So that's kind of my thought about where to spin off. And if you guys like the idea, like I want to start poking around and having some ideas for what next steps should be.
Just as an aside with the parks, there's a new director of the parks coming in, and I was talking with him last night with the Barberry and such in North Park. And he's very attuned to trying to do something like in Settler's Cabin, they're actually doing mechanical getting rid of it, and that's a very expensive way, and it doesn't, anyway, we discussed that, but anyway, he's going to be somebody that we can work with on stuff too.
That'd be
Because
awesome.
that's 3,200 acres of the park is in McCandless.
Yeah, it's North Park, and I know my husband even helped with removing the Japanese barberry up at Autonomy. And that was one of the things that kind of triggered my thought, because I did go to Potter Park just to see it, because I'd never been there. And there was a giant Japanese barberry right next to the trail. It's one of those like, yeah, it's gonna be there, but you have to be careful because that ticks love Japanese barberry. So be careful not to get too close to it and wear your bug spray and whatnot. But again, it's one of those things like something that needs to be managed. Like that's it. We see it's right there. If you know what you're looking at, you know, just want to rip it out.
But this is like with the park and stuff, they have stewards for the trails and things. And we want to develop something like that with our green space here in McCandless. And so that falls right into what you're doing is educating people to be stewards and to take care of things.
So we'll need a McMail tip for June. Is that an opportunity to sort of float, at least start using the word invasive species again and putting it into people's minds and saying, you know, we have this guide out there. Do you know, something? Do you want to put something together?
Time to go get them, you know.
Right, and I think there's definitely some things I can put out there for June about invasive species.
Okay.
Yeah, we briefly spoke that I probably was gonna be doing this anyway, so I was going to take something on and decide which direction to go with it,
Okay.
so, yes.
Wonderful. We need just that. So, so then, not to go ahead, but miscellaneous, June McMail tips, Joanna will take it with this invasive species. Wonderful.
To say, I think one of the like really strong points to hit is the why, because it's just one of the things that we haven't really seemed to mention yet, right? We have like, here's how you identify this, here's how you identify that. You should use native plants. Invasives are bad, but we don't really have like why? What's the problem? Like, who cares? Like, I see a bunch of plants over there. I don't know what they are, but who cares? They're just growing there. What's the difference? And I think like really making that connection for people and really like getting to the, like, because when the spotter and lanternflies showed up, like there was kind of this, first of all, they were everywhere and people were annoyed by them, but there was like almost this moment of like, hey, we all hate these things. Let's get rid of them. Let's all smush them. Let's all kill them. And it was like, great, yeah, let's all do that. But I don't know that I think we need that kind of driving force of like, hey, this is, if you get rid of these invasive species, here's the benefits, right? Here's what this is causing as far as a bad thing is concerned. Is just a helpful thing to really hit on.
I like that. Good idea.
Great. Anything else on that, Joanne?
No. That's just kind of my overview and then.
Okay.
Can I just say, I think that's heroic.
To take on invasive species?
Yes.
Oh, I know.
I've lived that life before in
Yeah.
1990.
Yeah, it is. That's why.
Washington, but
That's
that's what I mean, like, I'm like
Yeah.
going like, oh.
I mean, I'm not gonna be just out there with a machete, like, doing it all on my own, like, it's like, where can I make a dent?
Right.
Where can I
I know.
make some kind of impact, even if I'm not.
No,
A-
it's a
again,
big deal.
Yeah, this is a big one where Judy always tried to tackle it, but it's so big that, you just sort of pick at the edges of it all the time, but,
Right.
but it's great to have your enthusiasm and your passion for it. So we're excited about that.
And if you can get stewards created out there, like for Vestal and
Yes.
Potter and
Yeah.
for Wall, I mean, we're starting to tackle the big problem.
Yeah, I agree. You
Mhm.
can do the education, the training, and then how do you, it's almost like, to me, it's an important part of tree canopy health
Mm-hmm.
is the invasives will destroy. tree
Yes.
canopy.
And then once we have the deer population where it's supposed to be, then we can get into restoration
Mm-hmm.
type stuff, but it doesn't make sense to do that right now. You're just kind of spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the interest of time, let's continue to move on. So Joanna, you had also mentioned that, you didn't know the parks. There were 5 parks, obviously, one's behind us right here, but
Some of them, I'd never been to Potter Park, and then I learned recently about a couple other features of the
Yeah.
others. I was just thinking, like, I thought it'd be fun to go out and almost like a little field trip. Since it's the summertime coming up, there's gonna be longer hours. Not everybody has to go, but if we have little like, hey, let's go, walk this trail, let's do Vestal Trail and learn about the history of it. Like, there's a really fascinating history behind that.
Mhm.
And or if it's
History behind Potters is also cool too.
yeah, the history behind Potter Park. Take a walk around. And then I think each of us comes from a different perspective. So Ken's gonna be out there telling us about the cool trees. I'm gonna be finding all the, native wildflowers and, happy about that. And Nick's out there finding things that would go into Italian meals or something. Yeah.
Mustard.
Seems about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't we think about that? And then, I mean, whoever wants to join can join. I mean, I would walk Potter Park and Vestal. Dawn she does a great presentation on Vestal Field. So, we can, whoever wants to learn more about it can learn more about it. So why don't you and I tiptoe into that?
Yeah.
Are you talking about for this group or for the people of McKinley?
Group.
Just a group.
Yes, like if we're making decisions about the town, if we're making decisions about green space and that kind of thing, I think it'd just be nice to have little field trips and be like,
Yeah.
hey, guys,
It
let's.
wouldn't be more than an hour. I mean, it's an hour on a Saturday morning or something like that.
Or,
Just to throw out too, I've been playing around in my mind, like towards the end of June of inviting you all up to my cabin and just taking I'm thinking that I'm gonna have like a time for a mountain bike ride, a time for a hike. But there's also a Class A trout stream for people to fish if they want to and so forth. But you can have a field trip an hour and 45 minutes from here to see what's going on and I've got Chestnut Orchard up there and all, there's just a multitude of things that you don't see around here to expand people's horizons and have the interaction together.
Sounds really
And
cool.
I'll supply venison burgers for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Say less.
Yeah.
Sold.
He doesn't bring everything else.
So and thank you, Ken. So I just want to mention on here, so Volunteer Network Hub, continue to populate that on the EAC website. You pull in volunteers, I mean, we should continue to have those and have a record of those in case, you get transferred to Seattle, continue for people that are pulling volunteer names in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and just so you know, I mean, what I did is I created a second sheet for the tree program
okay, great.
and then.
I didn't notice that. Thank you.
I'm gonna do a worksheet for.
Okay, great. Then, so we talked about the McMail tip, and then next is on miscellaneous is the McCandless wants to, and John and Nick walk me through some think I understand this. They want to either be an Adopt a Highway or they want to have an Adopt a Highway program.
Yes, John Schwend would like to start a McCandless Adopt a Highway program, which some nearby places, Shaler and Hampton, also do. And this basically would be for town roads, so it wouldn't be county or state roads, and maybe parks as well.
So the EAC already has an Adopt a Highway.
Yes, so that would be PennDOT's.
Yeah, that's state.
Okay,
So basically McCandless is starting its own program and encouraging residents to sign up.
I see.
Yes.
So so we're not gonna see John Schwend and Diane out there picking up. They're saying, hey, people that live in here, adopt it for your neighborhood or
Yes.
First Watch.
Yeah,
You adopt
businesses.
Cumberland or something like that.
Yeah, and I sent those out too. I don't think we need to put them on the screen, but Public Works, our sign shop, did put together a few mock-ups of signs, basically saying, this is what if, a resident picked it up, adopted a street, and here's one for if a business does it.
So what do you want from us?
I guess really just, I don't know if it's guidance, it's just like getting your take on it, see if you have any concerns, any ideas, things like that, because there's not a whole lot of details right now. It's just, he would like to do this.
Areas
just-
that, areas that aren't part of our organized pickup.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's not gonna be, not gonna be McKnight Road with,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be Sloop. What could it be Babcock?
I think that's a county road, so it wouldn't be that.
So are you talking more neighborhood roads?
Yes, basically, yeah. So my thought is this probably isn't gonna cannibalize, the spring cleanup that much. Because I don't think we're gonna be overwhelmed by people signing up for it. It's probably gonna be smaller streets for the most part, or smaller stretches.
Get into it though.
Yeah, I mean, we can consider, how often we're required, because the state requires 2 times a year. Shalers, who I hope to imitate a little bit, at least for their sign up, they say quarterly. 2 times is probably sufficient. We could probably encourage them to do it around when the spring cleanup is, so we can spiritually include them in that. And I would say the town should probably consider, providing supplies if people want them. And they would need to reach out to us like about a week in advance to say, hey, we're gonna go out and clean up, to make sure that, if Public Works is gonna pick up bags, they're aware of it in
Right.
advance.
And it would be great to track their data too.
Yeah, exactly. Like we can add that to our total.
Okay, and, so one of the things that we find with Adopt a Highway people is that they don't adopt a highway.
Right.
So there is some level of accountability.
Mhm.
You just don't get your name up there. The Campbell family has adopted this and,
Yeah.
yay, but they never pick it up.
Yeah,
So, again, some level of accountability, I think is something that I think we
No,
have run
don't
into.
put the sign up until after they've done it for a year.
so the Shaler way is, they're saying, hey, do you want to pick this up for, have a year-long commitment or maybe have a 3+ year commitment? And they're saying they don't get the sign unless they do 3+ years, essentially,
Mhm.
or say they're gonna do it.
Yes.
So that's one option.
Do I get one for every week after waste management comes through?
That would be fun.
Yes.
Yes. I had to. Yeah.
One thing you might want to consider is a recognition program of some kind, so that like people that do follow through are receive some kind of, I don't know if it's just their names in McMails or a yearly event of some kind that just says thank you to them. Maybe they come to the volunteer thing or just something that, maybe that way it like spurs people on to actually do it if they think like, I mean, they should just be doing it out of the good of their hearts, but if they also get a little thank you nod, maybe that encourages a little bit more participation.
And John, is there any liability issue? I mean, do you guys address that where they,
Need to talk to our-
assumes no liability for?
I would assume we would have to do something like that. We could talk to our attorneys to make sure it's all dotted and crossed and everything, but I would have to assume there's some sort of, hold harmless type deal we would have to do.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, we're supportive of this. I don't think it all undercuts, what we try to do in the larger community. So, no, and in fact, one of the things we've mentioned is that, hey, if you have an area you know, you can, you know, what a legacy event it is to, you know, to have your family do it. So adopting it, and this is sort of makes this official. So in a way, we feel like it fits into our program.
Right.
How about that?
I think it's a great head nod and recognition of the success of the litter pickup program, right? It's now inspired others to do it at an even more local level, in the you know, the small world that they live in and control. And so I think it's, the headline here is like it's a growing version of the litter pickup program.
I like that.
I mean, is there a way to make, you know, everybody who signs up part of like, I know in the city, there was a guy named Boris Weinstein that created a group called the Litter Getters. And that's kind of what he would do. He started in Squirrel Hill, but he used to go to every neighborhood and sign up folks to do it. But he, you know, he kind of had them join, they were deputized and then he communicated. He used to run Mark Advertising, so he was like a hell of a marketer and communicator. So, you know, he made this like a big thing. You know, meaning you're now one of us, you're part of this. And so there was like pride in being part of the gang.
Right.
So is there a way that, you know, the highway adopters can become, I don't know, called something in the township in some way, like?
So I mean, we've actually used litter getters kind of unofficially for several years.
Have you?
If you see the T-shirt.
On the shirt, yeah.
So we could continue with that, or we could come up with a new, you know, a new slogan, but yeah. I think we can do something like that for sure.
Mm.
Okay. Do you have what you need from us then to?
I think so, yeah, unless John has any other ideas, but it sounds like we have EAC support to do this and some ideas to make sure that we do it.
Yeah, it's not gonna conflict. It actually is gonna enhance what we're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought Mark had a good comment. I thought Matt had a good comment on recognition. That's great.
The Tom Sawyer effect, right? So, you know, how do you make picking up, you know, the town, you know, like cool?
Mhm.
I mean, that's kind of what that program I think is meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, which is it's not,
if they're willing to take selfies or group shots, you know, while they're cleaning up,
yeah,
and we get them out every once in a while, I think that would be helpful.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably as good as, yeah.
Is there a way to, if you want it quarterly, is there a way to say it's the first Saturday of every quarter?
I don't think you should force them on a certain.
No,
day.
it's sort of like they are adopting this, you know, they do it on their schedule when they can do, you know, when they're available. So if it is quarterly or twice a year, they can figure out when they're gonna do it.
Are you gonna make it quarterly or twice a year?
Should be twice a year, right? I mean, isn't that the requirement?
So the state's requirement's twice a year, and in the Shaler one, they said it's quarterly.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
I kind of like the idea of quarterly though. 'Cause You get,
I mean, it depends on what kind of roadway you're looking at.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if it's like a cul-de-sac type road, I mean, quarterly would just be really easy.
Mhm.
But then twice a year would also be easy too, because they're probably not getting too much.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure at this point.
The case.
it will
Run
depend
into-
what areas are.
I was just gonna say the issue running into the quarterly is like if we have like a particularly bad winter, like you're just gonna have people who are like, I'm not going out, like it's too cold, I'm not gonna go out for these 3 months. And so then they miss a quarterly thing, and then you're like, all right, well, then should they keep doing it or sort of twice a year makes it so it's a somewhat regular basis, and you can also be in good weather twice a year, right? So
You
6
could
months
potentially
apart.
do 3 times a year, spring, summer, winter, something like that.
Sure.
Just that they're doing it is good.
Right. Okay, any other thoughts on that? Okay, Nick, report from town council.
I think everyone at this table knows that at our last meeting, we approved the purchase of 17 acres of land to Potter's Park, so it's going to be nearly doubled in size. Pretty exciting news. It's gonna create now what is the second largest town park. So we're really excited to see what comes of that. I think it coincides really well with the Master Parks plan. Would love to, at some point, I think it'd be fun for us to all visit that. I know we just mentioned this group walk. I think it'd be great to go up to that new piece of land and you guys can all see it and we can get your guys' thoughts on it. It's an old house and a barn neither of which are in very good shape. The barn's definitely in the worst shape. In the contract we signed, the homeowner is going to be leveling the barn. So we will not have that, but there's a house there as of now, and it's just a beautiful piece of land. It overlooks the pond. It's on a nice hill.
Well, that's the one I want to see.
It's gorgeous. There's
Take that one first.
two massive trees there that are super, super old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I suggested
It's a beautiful
to
piece.
John that in North Park, they have people that live in the park in the houses, and that gives
Yeah.
you some people being present, so to speak, so stuff doesn't happen, and like, if that house is redeemable,
Yeah,
of making it available as a rental for a county, for a McCandless employee or something like that.
it's an interesting thought, yeah.
Well, and I think that's a question, like, I was traveling, so I was really out of the loop. I don't think I ever responded to you. Cause I was pulling long days when all of this was bubbling up. But what was the intended use? I heard green space. Did they, is it
There's no real set in stone, like we haven't truly decided what is going to be of this park yet. That's open for both us as council to decide. We would like public input on that. We want to see what the Parks Master Plan comes up with for this piece of land too.
Mhm.
So really, it's a
I mean, cause I always hear everybody
TBD.
wanting like a community center. Is that still alive? And everybody thinks a community center is a good idea. And is that a feasible site for something like that?
This is probably not a good site for that.
Oh, really?
And
No.
there's a pump station for the sewage down below there that
MTSA does have a little
Okay.
lot there.
once we own all the way down,
Mhm.
the sewer authority might be able to just run the line down. Cause right now they have to send somebody out there every day. And so when they would be doing that, they would be increasing the ability to access Potter Park. So you get an advantage out of it too.
So MTSA is involved, or do they just have a right of way on it currently?
They have a right of way on it in a pumping station that they have to send somebody to every day to check on. And so if they can run the line down to Pine Creek, then they eliminate that, but they quid pro quo, there's some other things Jack's talked about. I'm a little out of line with that, but
So is it meant to be like passive green space?
I personally want it to be seen and used as a passive green space. I think that's its best use.
yes.
I don't want it to be too developed that totally takes away from the point and the feeling of that part.
Okay,
So,
I mean, I'm happy to hear that, obviously. Yeah.
We talked about maybe.
It gives you much better access to Potter Park also.
I'm poking at Joanna for maybe a floating garden in the middle of the
garden would be nice there.
It could be pretty.
There's a lot of land there, so.
well, I
A
mean,
lot of land.
so I saw a presentation where you have the floating garden. So it'd be
Mhm.
something out in the middle of water. That would,
Can't get to it.
huh?
The deer can't get to it.
Right.
Unless they know how to swim.
I think that's also got, and I haven't been there, so I don't know, but I am under the impression there's a lot of open area.
Mhm.
And so that also gives us the opportunity to do something like a meadow.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's nice. And 17 acres of
It's a lot of
deer
land.
management.
Yes,
And the next door neighbor to the land is the master gardener who's in charge of the butterfly gardens over at the cannon over at North Park.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Met her at the meeting.
that's really cool.
Who is it?
The lady you were talking to and then I was talking.
Yes, so she is. Okay, sure.
He was the master gardener who is in charge of the butterfly
really cool.
garden program. So it's like, okay, so she's right there, cause there's only one of me and I'm not a master gardener.
Yeah,
I just know a lot.
yeah.
Well, the county's been putting in meadows, so
Mhm.
we can tap into like that one that's right off the spillway where that mound is to look. They've had a
Mhm.
horrendous time. Andy Beckley got the dirt for that for free from Wildwood. And what it's turned out when they've done the soil testing, they're having a hellacious time getting anything to grow in it. And so they're doing a lot of remedial treatment to get that meadow established.
Would it be a crazy idea to propose before next month's meeting if we're around? We take like half an hour, like 40 minutes before the meeting to all go up there and just
Why don't we have
Take a walk.
have dinner up there?
Be nice.
It's tough on a Wednesday for me.
Okay.
It's my later day at work. But I've kind of sort of, I did Potter Park and then kind of looked up. That's
Yeah.
what I did.
Okay,
So,
I'll try to organize that.
Okay.
I'll try to organize that. Okay, so is that anything else, Nick?
that's it.
Okay,
I just looking forward to seeing your guys' note.
okay,
So,
okay, good, yeah,
would love to get you guys to one of our next month's meetings to
okay, yeah, I'll put something together.
give us a
And I'll
nice
forward it to
little
everybody first. and-
PowerPoint of some sorts.
Look at that letter that I had sent out.
Okay.
So,
Mhm.
thanks, guys.
Yeah. And then, so topics for next meeting, I have on here Birdtown, Pennsylvania membership. Continue talking about the deer call presentation. I think there's some things to be said about the Wall Park Trail expansion. Maybe,
Not, we had some, there was some, we had, I'm gonna forget their name now. A group come in and did some, work on the trail. Jack and I were down there last week fixing up what they had done.
okay,
And a lot of that's just kind of on hold until the parks thing is done.
okay, got it, okay, so then, we take that off, and then, if we wanna. If we haven't talked about it between now and then, let's talk about, the visit to Ken's house, so. Had to cut that short this time, but we should all think about that and have a nice conversation about that next time, so we are,
It'll be a learning experience.
yeah,
Sounds pretty cool.
anything else?
We can either talk about this asynchronously as a group, but if we don't, then next month I would like to discuss the future of the student EAC, the junior EAC member program,
Yep,
because it did not work quite the way I think that we wanted to this time, and I'm a little concerned about its future moving forward. So just like to see what people have to say about it. But again, we can do that asynchronously if you would prefer. So just let me know.
since I don't know what that word means, I'm gonna say.
We can do it via email as a discussion instead of doing it at the meeting.
I think we ought to put on the agenda for next time and have a group discussion. I like that. Anything else? Okay, with that, then, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you, everybody.
Good night, guys.
I'm going to
Thank you.
include you in an email